2021 retirement party for Iron Orchid Designs. This was a big deal. Now, I know if this is being watched by someone in 2022 or 2023, it's not a big deal to you, but in this present time, it's a big deal. We've retired 15 products. I'm not saying we, because I would not retire all of these. But you know, the wisdom is in the sisters that run Iron Orchid Designs, and they know what's coming down the pipeline. They must know we need a lot of room. So, retiring this year, if you haven't seen it on any of the social media, we have classic bouquets, farm fresh signage, prim and trim, redoute. So these are all transfers. Japonica, label ephemera, ladies in waiting, and Astoria foliage. Like, oh my gosh. That to me is a golden ticket. Love Astoria foliage. Classic bouquets, that's like in panels of 11 by 14 each. All on one transfer. Or the new format has them in the pads, but you get it all in one package. You get all this yumminess. You get 4 projects if you want, and you can color them in. So the Astoria and the classic bouquets were paintables, and then the rest are the regular transfers, the farm fresh signage, prim and trim. Oh, redoute makes me sad. That really makes me sad. I use redoute a lot. Japonica, the flowers in Japonica, if you haven't tried it, oh my God, amazeballs. Love the typography in label ephemera. That is just a go-to to put in and with and about other products, whether it's stamps, molds, transfers. So kind of sad about all this. So we're going to continue because that's not all that's retiring. For stamps, we have Painterly Roses, back plates, which has the stamps for all, like, you know, the keyholes and your back plates for knobs and things like that. That's a golden one. Like if you use it with foils or like the leaves, oh my God, it's the amazeballs. Chippy paint, Crackle Lure that saddens me, and really Distress. The stamps, like those two, are also a golden ticket, like for putting behind and about things, okay? And then for molds, we have Classic Cherubs. We're back to the stamps. Birds, Branches, and Blossoms. That's always a fun one. And it's a very freestyle. It's always make it your own kind of a thing. Love that. Floral Swags is retired. Pavo, the peacock, they retired Pavo. Knob toppers. So that was one, like you could decorate your wooden knobs, or you know, because the stamps and the molds are food safe. People were stamping their macaroons with knob toppers. How cool is that? And then the last one is Lady Shallot. So for our retirement portion of this retirement party, our portion of the retirement party, I guess, we're doing, or we did in your case, Lady Shallot and the Classic Cherubs. And we'll show you the process because everyone wants to know, and this is, hence we're doing the video. I just want to show you, we're working with the IOD, of course, 11 by 14 wooden gallery blank, okay? All I did so far is I gave the inside of the shadow box side a coat of what we call Moonstone. It's a paint that we used to carry. It's no longer available by anybody. So the closest thing that we have to it is a Dixie Belle, I believe would be drop cloth. Okay, it's a beautiful off-white color. It's not too creamy, it's not too tan, it's not too yellow, it's not too brown. It's just a really cool color. But yeah, and then this side is done in, it's actually a water-based, sort of like a stain. It's called Color and Seal by Urban Paints. And we get that through the person we used to get our cottage paint products from. So this is really cool. I can't remember the color, but it's a nice kind of a dark walnut, maybe an espresso actually. But we just did one quick coat and that's dry and we're ready to go. So let's do this. Let's show you the rest of the project and we'll see you on the other end. Hey, if you like what you see, please share. Please let everyone know that you saw something you liked and you learned and maybe got inspired by, and that would help us out greatly. All right, Hope you like what you see. All right, so for this part of the project, we're actually not going to use either of the two sides we showed you in the intro. What we're going to be doing is the ends. And it's not done anything with yet because we're going to put some molds around it because I don't like anything too simple. We're actually going to use, this is from Trimmings 1, I believe. And let's see if I marked it. Trimmings 2, apparently. Okay, there's different ones. This is Trimmings 1. Yes, I see the difference. Okay. Trimmings 1 has a few more options, and they're also a little bit thinner. Trimmings 2 has a little bit thicker options. All right. And this one has some flowers in it, and since we're using the Lady Shallot and the cherub, and it's all romantic and all that fun stuff, we're going to go with this one. What you need when you're using molds, we're going to set this aside for now. You're going to want to have your mold. You're going to want to have some cornstarch. Any cornstarch will do. Arrowroot powder will also work. All right. What this does is you're going to dust the mold. You don't need a lot. However, if you're doing some really fine details like this one here, has some little pointy points to it. The hands of the Sea Sister Mermaid. The tippy tips of snowflake molds. If you're not going to use resin, you're going to want to use a little bit, kind of push the limits with the cornstarch, okay? And we're also going to be using the Iron Orchid Designs air dry clay, amaze balls, okay? This has a bit of a binder to it. I'm pretty convinced. I've never talked to the sisters about it. But I've noticed a big difference between this and the other clays that you can get at the stores, and I know you can use your coupons at the other stores, but trust me, if you like working with clays, this will make your life a lot less, a lot more headache-free, okay? I have another video on YouTube here that explains the difference, so I don't need to go to it here. So after this video, go check out that video. And it's not a sales scheme. It was just, in a moment, I realized the difference, and I just, when I'm in those moments, I like to share my thoughts, and I just kind of jumped on and did the video because it was pretty night and day. So what I'm doing is I'm taking this tube of this clay and I'm pressing it in here. If you've ever used the other clays, right here and now, you would see the difference, because the other clays just want to crumble up. Like, you have to really manipulate them, you know, in this part of the game to get them, you know, where they don't want to come apart and crackle and all that. This is very smooth still, okay? Since I'm adding to it, I'm just kind of doing a nice, good blend. And the important part of this is to get it pressed into the mold, because this is the important part. You want the nice impression on the other side. This side, no one's going to see it but the glue, okay? So we're just making sure we're pressing down where we join the clay. Will mush together nicely if we just do this part well. Okay, now you can take like a putty knife that you have at home, like when you're working on, you know, home projects. This is just a fancy knife. I believe it's called a blue hand knife for troweling. You can even use the tools from the transfers, okay? So many, you know, whatever works for you. And a lot of people just use their fingers. I like this because it gives you that nice flat edge if you use a nice flat surface to pull, okay? All right, so this is another technique that Claire on YouTube, if you look her up, starts with K, K-L-A-I-R-E. She showed this on YouTube, and it's awesome. It's an awesome technique if you're going to be continuing like we are, because these long sides, even the short side is longer than this mold, okay? So I want to extend that, because every time you have a seam, you're asking for, when this clay dries, it does shrink, okay? Even this really nice clay, the difference between this clay and the other clays is that this has less opportunity to crack when it shrinks, okay? So one way to help prevent cracking is to let gravity do the work for you. So kind of let it fall out of the mold, okay? If it's not coming off that easily, that's where you want to use the cornstarch, okay? If you didn't use it and you're saying, you know what, it's sticking a little bit, go back and do the cornstarch. All right, and this is just like a little makeup brush. Whatever you have, you know, to dust it around in there will work. All right, so here's the technique. So now we have this part of it, right? We want to be careful that we're not stretching this too much, because that's what's gonna lead to the cracking. Because every time we stretch out this clay, it's got to shrink back. And that's where we get the problems, okay? So the less you stress the clay here and in gluing it on, the more success you will have if you don't want cracks. Not that you won't get cracks with Iron Orchid Design clay. I want to be very clear on that. But the difference of how easily it cracks, and just in working with this clay, it's night and day. Okay, it stays very smooth, but you have to keep, you know, mindful. It's still an air dry clay, and it does what it says. It dries in the air, so you just want to be careful. All right, let's see if we have enough. Yes, we have enough for a side. We want to have a little bit more, because when I glue this on, I'm going to press it together in all directions as much as I can to help, again, to kind of reduce the risk of that cracking that some people really don't like. In something like this, I don't think it would be a real bad thing, because this is going to be kind of a Mod Podge of different products. It's going to be kind of a mixed media sort of a thing. So, all right, so we have our long string of mold. Let me show you what it looks like. Okay. I don't think you can even tell where we joined them together. Okay. That being told, every time I'm moving this around and letting it hang and all that, it's stretching it and it's stressing it out. All right, so let's get some glue. I don't want to do it on here. I don't know what I'm thinking. I'm just getting ready. And with the video, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. So just, you know, no one's perfect, right? So I'm going to start the glue in the center and see if I can maybe not waste the mold this time. I always think, oh, I should have done this, and then I end up throwing away clay because it already has the glue on it, right? So let's start the glue in this more center part, and when we're pressing inward, I can add the glue on the ends. Now, as far as glue, we're using the Titebond Quick and Thick. You can use any wood glue. I've even used the Aleene's Fast Grabs tacky glue. But most of us stockists have come to the realization that this Titebond really is pretty superior as far as our purposes go, okay? It tacks up really, really nice, even though like something like a Aleene's, that was it's thicker than this. But the difference that I found is from all the glues that I've tried so far, this one really sets fast. So when you're working on a vertical surface, you don't have to continually go back and slide it back up into position, or tape it in ways that, you know, you're distorting your project. Okay, I can see we need to add some more anyway, so let's just add some more on both ends. Okay. Well, we're on Main Street, so if you hear noise, got some hot shots driving by. If you're not familiar with us, we're on Cape Cod, as the intro explains. It's a great place. Moved here from Central Mass almost 7 years ago. And I'm from Michigan originally. So the whole water living is not new to me. It actually is very homey to me to be around all the boats and things like that. All right, so now we have it on. I want to show you. Okay. Now I want to push this in. Okay, and I'm just trying to continually trying to write what we did by stretching it out, if that makes any sense. And I'm pushing inward on this side. You have to be careful because this is wet clay, and we're going to paint this before it's dry. It actually, it's theorized that it helps the clay to not shrink as much if you paint it right away. Although most of my projects don't ever get done in one sitting, so they don't get glued right, painted right away. Okay, so we have our excess, and we'll just take this little art palette knife, and we're gonna continue this angle from the frame, and I'm actually pushing in a little bit more because I want this to have a little bit of an overhang. So when we get the other end, they're pushing on each other, and hopefully we have less waste, if that makes any sense. We have less of a seam separating here. As much as I can compact this at this point, the better off we'll be. But if we get a little separating here, I will just come in the morning and I will put a little bit of that glue in here and take, the smallest amount of the clay, roll it in there. Then I can take like a little toothpick and kind of make the little notches and things like that, so it looks like it all continues and you didn't even see the seam. Okay? All right, so let's do one more side so you can see how we're going to do the joining, and then I'll see you at that point. I'm just cutting this corner. All right. And I'll see you when I get the side done, and I'll show you how we do the seams. Okay, so I have my next strand all laid out. I want to show you when we're not using the clay, it's important because it is air dry clay to keep it protected. So I'll keep it in the bag rolled up. I might put just sort of put a damp rag over it, put it back in the baggie. I like to double bag mine with a little damp towel inside of it just to keep, make sure that the damp towel doesn't touch the actual clay. To keep everything folded and protected, the damp towel just keeps the moisture in the bag. All right, so we have, oops, I mushed something here, so let's see. Let's line things up again. That's a technical term, mush. Okay. Good enough, hopefully. All right, so let's put it, now you gotta be mindful when we're working on this, we have to, continue to go back and make sure it hasn't slid, but after a few times, you'll find this doesn't move very easily, okay? Which is what you want. but once you set it on there in the beginning, make sure you like it before you leave it for a few minutes, because it's gonna set on you, okay? And then you're gonna make a hot mess trying to move it. All right, so let's get some glue on here. Right, I have enough? I know, that's what I was gonna check. Yes, I have enough. We have to be very careful because this is all wet and gooey still. We can easily mess that up. I think we're gonna use all of this actually. I'm gonna start at the kind of the one end here. And work our way, because I didn't leave myself a lot of leeway with this. I got a little crazy, okay? You don't need a ton of glue, but you want enough, okay? If some seeps out the side, that's fine, because at least you have that, that seal along the edge, or if this was on a flat surface, along the bottom. There it is. So, you know what I'm saying? And then tomorrow, if I have any lifting, if I want, I can hit a bead of caulk. We like to use the DAP Alex. It's like a fast dry. It's a latex, but it has silicone in it. So it's very durable, but it dries super fast. And you just take like a bead of it, you squeeze it along here with it, and then you take your damp finger or put a rag around your finger or something, and then wipe off the excess. And that'll give you a seamless edge if this does lift. Okay? And then you just touch up your paint after. Oh, sorry. I have glue on here now, so we can glue this. All right, I'm gonna do this to the side, because after this I'm gonna have to do this in an awkward position. I'm gonna have to be on the floor and doing it from the sides, because I'm not gonna be able to put this on an end after, because these sides have. So let's start this way. And I'm gonna overlap this a little bit. Can you see, like it's riding up that other end? Like I said, we wanna be pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing to kind of right all the wrongs that's been happening with this clay getting, you know, out of the mold and everything else, right? And if I have a little glue, because yeah, I did glue to the end, didn't I? As long as I know I'm using it in my next batch, I'm not gonna worry about it. I just wouldn't want to have some clay that had some dried glue in it, you know what I mean, sitting in my clay to use tomorrow or a week from now, right? Now I can push this in a little bit. And then there, now we have a little corner. See? And we're going to mush these ends together. And if we did enough compacting of the clay, this shouldn't, in theory, shouldn't separate at all. But that's asking a lot. But you can kind of do things to kind of marry the two together, like join the lines, right? Like that. And no one's going to be the wiser. And if this lifts a little bit, we can use the caulk if that bothers us. Or the clay. Like I said, you can put a little bead of clay, roll it in your hands, and fix, you know, your little cracks or even the seams that way. All right, so now you know how to do the edge. I'm going to continue in a very awkward position and finish this framing out, and we'll see you on the next clip. So now we have all the sides done, and I have to be very careful when I lift this. Like, I will actually probably take like this little knife, right? Because everything is very wet on the sides, okay? We have to be very careful now. Okay, I'm gonna put kind of a dry brush coat on here. I have my moonstone that I have on the other side of this. I don't need a lot. And I'm just using this 2-inch art brush. It's very wet. I'm gonna get rid of the excess water. And it could be any brush. It could be, you know, the brush you would use to use your trim on or paint furniture with. It could be a hog's hair brush. This part really doesn't matter, okay? Normally, I plan on putting some molds over here, but before I put molds on, I want to put the stamp on. So I am going to put a little paint on first. Typically, like this part, I put the mold on before I put the paint on. But you got to think of your layers. Okay, so I'm just gonna, I want some of this wood to show on this side. It's gonna be very kind of like farmhouse sort of a look on this side, but enough coverage that, you know, you see the stamp. Okay. And I'm not even thinking of placement of, if I try, I think, to plan where everything goes, I think it might look too planned. So a lot of times I don't know, this is just, when it's something very rustic and natural looking, you want it to happen naturally. Okay, I think that's good coverage. And remember, we did this isn't like a stain, this is a water-based stain on here. So I don't have to worry about drying. If this was an oil-based stain, we'd want this to be drying, you know, several days before we're applying a water-based paint on here. But that's the beauty of that product. It was the Color and Seal by Urban Paints. And as soon as we get caught up on a decent amount of product, since we just signed on with Dixie Belle, I'm going to get an order of this in, and their cleaning product, their furniture clean and prep. I am really loving the Dixie Belle White Lightning. The clean and prep, I'll tell you, it also somewhat deglosses. I have, and it's already mixed, you know, you don't have, it's not in a powder form. So it's easy peasy, one step go kind of a thing. All right, so if we have some of that, I'm going to get rid of some of this in the center. Here I am telling you not to plan, and I'm doing it anyways. Let's see. What one bothers me? Actually, I think that one bothers me for some reason. This is pretty much a dry brush technique, and we can go more to the edge on some of this. I think, like, this is going to be one coat done. You don't have to worry about full coverage when we're going to be going for this, you know, I don't know, not industrial, but you know, sort of rustic-y look. It might not be easy for someone who's very OCD. Like my husband has a real tough time doing this, you know, to paint without full coverage. because everything's got to be in its place. This is not an easy project for you if that's how you work. All right. Well, we're going to let that dry. But I want to also get some paint on these edges. And we're going to use this Pink Couture. It's Baltic Black. All right, and I just have a fine, you know, like a fine art brush, I guess, is, you get it in, like, you know, craft store or whatever. Doesn't have to be a fancy one. Remember, this is still wet. Okay, I could show you, but then I'd be ruining what I've done, right? What did I do with my little palette knife to move this with? I just had it, did I not? Let's use this one. Okay. So I'm just going to take, and it actually does help to let the clay set up a little bit. And I can do touch-ups when this dries and we have, you know, if things separate a little bit. It helps to have a little crust on here, and it helps to have it a little watery so you're not trying to press the paint into this wet clay too much. Now, as far as the other side, I don't have to be so perfect because the whole, let's see, I don't want to flip it yet, but you'll see. You'll see. The other side has the shadow box frame, and that's going to be in black. But see how nice this black covers? This is a very nice black. Caviar and Dixie Belle is yummy. We have it. And soon enough we'll be your premier retailer. So, sorry I moved away, I didn't see. I get carried away in what I'm doing. I can't see, but see, this is a wet clay. And I'm working it. Just be careful you're not pressing too hard to lose the details in the clay. You know, we did let it set for about a half hour or so. I played some music and had some fun, and then we're back at it now. All right. So I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, and we'll see you at the next step. All right, see that? Isn't that beautiful? Oops. All right, I'm just jumping on to show you, you can see we have all the painting done all along the sides. I've done the shadow box frame, very, very light, almost like a stain. You could put this on like a stain, just take your mineral paints and just really water down, and you see the grain. I'm not going for so much of that. But it is pretty thin. Okay, so I just want to even this out. This got a little watery down in here. But I want to show you, to paint out this inner band where it meets the white, it can get a little tricky. You want to have a damp brush. So I have I have a little pool of water here. I'm working with, my palette is the cap of the black. So you want it so it's not thick, okay? But you do want, so it works, and you take your art brush, okay, and you're gonna press it so, and the problem is I can't set this down because the clay is still wet and the paint on it is wet. And when you move, I'll show you, when you press the, oh, that's actually starting to dry, but some of the parts where it's still wet on the clay, it pulls right off. The paint will pull right off because you're actually activating the wet clay with the wet paint. And so, you know, that's why the tips of my fingers are black. So it's hard for me to get a good angle to show you this. Let me see if I can't come this way. I'm pressing so I get a, like, here's an exaggeration. I'm pressing so that you get a real thin, flat brush, okay? And then I can even take and just like press in at a straight point right here. If you're afraid to do this, you can take blue tape, you know, cut your corners to the peaks and just line your blue tape right along, you know, here, here, and here on the white part. But I'm comfortable, obviously, working with a brush. See, I hope you can see. I'd rather work in thin layers and go over it more than once than have a big glop of paint. Okay, so that's that, and we'll see you at the next step. So we have another coat on here. You did leave some of the distress. We have some touching up on here, but that's not a big deal. We have another coat on this white, and we're gonna have to touch up because, you know, we have interesting workspace here. And this, you know, as it dries tomorrow, I'll come in and touch up parts that shrink, and, you know, it's not a big deal, just small brushes, and we fix these parts that got some paint on it, or some of this debris from the clay, or, you know. But for the most part, we're there. And we're gonna start with the stamp. Now, Lady Shallot is one of the retired stamps, unfortunately. I've used this, if you watch live, we're gonna probably put this as part of, the live will be part of this video, so you'll see it later in the clip where I'm gonna show different things that I've done with the Lady Shallot stamp. This is the Iron Orchid Design ink. This is black. And what you do is you can buy one of these ink pads. They're normally blank, it's just a white pad, and you just add your ink. I'm just refreshing it. Okay, I'm just adding a little bit more. And then I'm going to get a little popsicle stick, and I'm gonna work that ink into the pad a little more even. All right. Make sure we have enough. I don't feel like a lot went in that time. There wasn't a lot on the popsicle stick. I almost said toothbrush. Ha! All right. So again, I'm just going to work that in. Now I could take this and I could just stamp my stamp, right? Problem is I really prefer the brayer because don't mind our dogs. The brayer has that really stiff surface, okay? Just like a normal stamp does, okay? So I'm gonna actually take the brayer onto the ink pad, because that way I can see, for one thing, it wasn't an even coverage on the pad. So I can get it all even on my brayer and use that to ink up the stamp. Now I'm putting this on pretty juicy because I want a nice crisp image, because we have the black frame on here and I might want to distress it, so I want to start out pretty crisp. So let's move this over without messing our still wet clay molds, which, you know, it's taking a little abuse moving it around like this all the time, but that's okay. Now I know I want to put some molds here as well. So I just wanna, I don't need to like go off to the edge, or actually I could if I wanted to. Let's try that. Let's see, because I was thinking classic elements coming down here, classic elements coming up here. See, this is happening in the moment. We're making a split decision now. I was going to be all happy and kind of do an off-center arrangement here, but now I'm thinking outside the box here. All right. You know what? And we're not even going to do the molds on this side, and it'll make it easier when, oh, I don't know. There's so many options. That's the problem, is my head just keeps going. So let's see. We're going to, do I want to do it like a center arrangement? Do I want to go off the side here? Let's do a center arrangement. Let's do it that way. There we go. Now that it's down, I don't want it to move, so I keep one hand down with pressure, and then I can move with the other hand. All right. This hand goes down while this hand applies pressure to other parts. I could take a blank brayer and bray over it. You could take a damp rag and just kind of rub over it. If we know this hasn't moved, we can kind of see our progress. All right, make sure. Okay. Because you don't know that the wood is perfectly plain. So you got to make sure everything is getting good pressure. All right, I'm gonna lift it up. Quick upward motion. And this is why I love Lady Shallot. This is Amaze Balls. Okay. So this is upside down for you, but I really want to keep it right side up for me. Your loss, but my part of the game here. So we're going to kind of fan that a little bit. I want that. This is unsealed paint. I like to use the inks on unsealed paint. I'm used to it. If you're a little hesitant to use them, try working with paints until you're comfortable with the stamps. And then, now we have to figure out which way I was. So the new versions of these do have masks. So this one, I just took a piece of transfer paper and stamped the transfer paper and then cut out all the images. But the problem is you can't see the stamps anymore. So, actually I don't even think I stamped it. I think I took like a marker and went around the images. So, you know, you learn as you go. So this is why we use a mask. So I put the stamp down. Now I have that protection on there. So now if I want to put flowers, other flowers and leaves, that are coming out from behind there, I can do that. So let's see how we're gonna put something together here. The nice thing is this stamp, what I like to do is normally it's in one big sheet. And we'll show you that with the live tomorrow, or you know, in the next clip or so. And you condition the whole sheet by sanding it one direction, you sand it the other direction, you clean it off, and then it gives the surface a nice tack, just like when you're painting. It just likes to take the medium when it has the tack, just like when you're painting furniture. And then in this case, because you're always doing a free flow, we cut the whole stamp around on the backing so that you have this sort of stiff stamp to play with. But normally, well, I can't say normally, because so many more of the stamps now are so free-formed that I can't say normally. But other stamps, you would just leave them on the backing and you could peel them off. You know, this peels off the backing if you wanted to make arrangement. You peel off parts to make a whole. Like I could peel this off and I could peel that off and peel that off, and I could have, you know, just the rubbery stamp on my surface. Then I can take the sheet that comes on top of these, okay? Every stamp has the backing sheet and this top sheet. You would collect all these stamps together and make one big stamp. But that's not how we're gonna roll. So the backing is still on these, so I have a nice stiff surface. Okay, that is now explained. And a stamp gives you, I mean, little buds, stems, leaves. You get these, I don't even know what these are, but they're pretty. Little sort of, I call these the Hawaiian flowers. So the options are there, and you can run with it, okay? I've done Lady Shallot on so many different things. I love it. I've done it on a table, I've done it on artwork, I've done it on my jeans, I've done it on a top. It's crazy. I love, love, love it. Okay. So maybe this one we have coming off of here. Or down here. There we go. And we'll fit some leaves in there somehow. So this is a good one. Maybe for there. And we can have them go off the edge. Okay. And then maybe we'll use a different bud. And we have these leaves. Okay. So we could have maybe leaves here. So you want to plan this part out because, see, I love this bud. So this one just seems so rounded, and I get it, but I just love, like, that's a classic tea rose bud to me. And I love tea roses. So whatever, so this, even though I stamped this first, by putting the mask on, this will be the foreground image. So that's why I'm planning on what's going to be in the foreground and what isn't. So if we put that down first and then put the leaves, right? Or we do that. Oh, we have grumpy puppies. We have grumpy puppies. So we could do like that, perhaps. Gonna come from behind, like so. Put some leaves over there. I'm liking it, I'm liking it. Okay. So I think this is a good starting point. We're going to put this first. This is gonna come from behind. Puppies, enough. Enough. This is gonna go ahead of this, so that gets stamped next. Okay. Remember, the part you're masking is going to be in front of the parts that you're stamping. And once you do this a few times, it makes sense. But when it's totally new to you, I get it. So play with, a good thing to do is play with brown paper and make like wrapping paper, or play with cardstock and maybe make cards until you get the feel for stamping, for masking, and all that. Okay, so this is gonna come like so. Just a little off, because I don't really want to miss a lot of the image of this. So one hand is down, the pressure is down, so this isn't sliding around, okay? And then this hand can move. Now this hand is down, and this hand is doing the movement. And there we go. So now let's find that mask. And I think we have it here. Okay. If you have a sealed surface, it will take longer for your inks to dry. So that's another reason to use it on just the chalk paints. But again, if you're not comfortable, seal your surface, and you can use a little bit of like isopropyl rubbing alcohol that you have in your bathroom on a rag. If you work really quick, you'll get a little leeway. Plus the moisture will activate the chalk paint if you're working right on chalk paint. But if you're working on a sealed surface, you won't have to worry so much. Just use a little bit of the alcohol, and you can always touch up with the background paint and then seal it again. So I got a little bit on the background. I'm lucky I didn't get it on the paint. So lesson to you, because I was paying attention, is try not to do your inking on your surface. So now I'm going to go right onto this mask, and I'm going to kind of come off the edge. There we go. And I was thinking, you know, it'd be cute to put, I'm going to put something on the other side. And you could put love, or you could put dream, or whatever. But this side, I think I'm going to have it just more decorative, and the other side is going to have a little something, something. And we'll get to that with the later on, or in my case, tomorrow. So now we need this mask. And wouldn't it be nice if we could find it? Let's see. I think this is it. Okay, it's backwards. Okay. See, we didn't mush up the flower. It's coming from behind. Okay. And then we put this on. And if you move it over here, it'll just give you more of a what's the word? A border, a safety zone, instead of mushing, you know, image right up to image. Again, technical term, mushing. You have to be careful. These will clean in hot soapy water, but don't go too hot. So let's say warm soapy water. I like to wipe the stamps with you know, the wipies you can get for, you know, for the diaper, you know, your diaper wipies, or just the ones you have in your house. There. We're going to stick with that. And then if you find, like in this case, we're not removing them from the backing, so them not sticking won't be an issue. But when you're using the stamps that peel off and have to go back onto a background sheet and all that, if you find that they're not sticking so much, wipe it down with the isopropyl alcohol, you know, in a rag, and then in the warm soapy water, like a dish soap, you know, Dawn or whatever you have around. So let's do that. Again, I love this. You can use this ink for clothing. You can use it on your crafts, on your furniture. And if you're using it on clothing, you want to make sure that there's no softeners or sizing on the fabric. You want to make sure there is no wrinkles, so you're going on a nice flat surface. So you iron it, and then you let it set on there. You want it really juicy, like I did. These are even juicier, and you let it set on there longer to let the ink go right into the fabric. And then you let it set on there like overnight, couple days, to let those inks really set into the fabric. And then you just heat set it with the iron for 20 minutes, or put it in the you know, the dryer for 20 minutes. I like the dryer because it's even heat for 20 minutes. And then you're golden. I'll show you in the next clip or so. I'll be wearing jeans that I've done, and they've been washed I can't even tell you how many times. And I did it with the colored inks. Although I just seem to prefer this stamp set in the black. It's lovely. See how fast that happened? We can add a few more flowers. We can make it a little bit of an arrangement. Let's add some of these little stalks maybe. Right, so we need to get this one back out. We need the bud. Oh, where did that one go? Should have used the round bud because I found that mask. Let's see. Darn it all. That's not it. Let's just find, because I'm going crazy here, let's find a similar shape. I might have lost this mask. It's probably here and I just can't see it. So we're just gonna kind of do this. We're gonna take a similar shape this way. And then we could kind of go this way. So now it is semi-protected over there. We had the mask for these as well, didn't we? Right here. Okay. So now let's put up this little stalk. These are really pretty. I don't know what they are, but they're very pretty. All right, so again, we're gonna go right over those leaves. Uh-oh, I didn't put this, well, we can do that. Look at that, there we go. Okay. I'm caught on my sweater, but that's okay. It's not affecting anything there. Okay, again, once it's down, you don't want it to move. As the sisters used to say, commit, no shift. Once it's down, you're committed. You can hover over the surface, but once it's down, you don't want it to move. And there we go. So now, let's add another fun one. We have bigger stalks, but let's just maybe put one of these flowers like that and call that a day there. Maybe just something down in here. Not sure what. Okay, where's this? This must be it. Okay. So I don't have to worry about smudging the other stamps with the stamps we're putting over because the mask is protecting everything. Isn't that pretty? And look, we had a little bit, looks like it didn't maybe even get all the way out. Maybe the roller didn't get all the way out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of these wipies I was talking about, and I'm going to wipe off all the excess ink. Okay. So we're going to set this down. And I don't have a paper towel, but we have a dryer wipey over here from when I was stamping earlier. Just so we don't have wet ink sitting down there either. That's not any good. Just lighter ink doesn't make it any better. So now we're going to carefully just sort of hover over here, line all these other things up. And then press down that part that that we need to add the ink to. And now we have a finished leaf. Okay, so let's add a little something down here. We have one big leaf that we could kind of have it come from the bottom here. Although I'm pretty sure, because I love roses, that leaves don't grow out under like that, but who knows? There's maybe something happening behind this flower that's causing this leaf to come up under. It's our story, it's our deal. We can do whatever we want. Okay. All right, so you get the idea. I just want to show you, I got to do some touch-ups, but I just got back to this morning. We're getting ready to go live. But see where we had these seams? Because we pressed everything together, there's been no cracking. And it's probably still damp, so it's not like it won't happen, but so far, so good.